And welcome along to Sportsday. I'm Sarah Mulkerrins. Coming up on the programme this evening, the battle for the future of men's golf. Two-time major winner Dustin Johnson resigns from the PGA Tour to commit to the Saudi-backed startup series.
I resign my membership from the tour. I'm going to play here, for now, and that's the plan. But what the consequences are going to be, obviously I can't comment on how the tour is going to handle.
Gareth Southgate calls for more goals as England take on familiar foe Germany in the Nations League in Munich tonight. And after 3 deaths at the Isle of Man TT, we will bring you a report on the safety concerns surrounding the event. You're very welcome along to Sportsday. There is only one place to start, and that is with the Saudi-backed golf venture that is threatening to blow apart the current structure of the men's game. This week is pivotal, with the first event of the Live Invitational Series getting underway on Thursday. And today, the former world number one, Dustin Johnson, who is taking part, announced that he has resigned from the PGA Tour, the very circuit he has competed on week to week and made $74 million over the course of his career. His commitment to this new venture is a significant U-turn after the two-time major winner committed to the PGA Tour in February. We will be live shortly with our golf correspondent, but first Dan Glyde explains how men's golf has got to this point.
It's been called by some the breakaway tour that could change professional golf forever. The Saudi-funded LIV Golf International Series is certainly causing a storm. And today, the most dramatic development yet. Two-time major champion Dustin Johnson resigned from the PGA Tour. This is so the former world number one can play all 8 events of the fledgling £200 million series, which starts on Thursday at Centurion Club in St Albans.
I resign my membership from the tour. I'm going to play here, for now, and that's the plan. But what the consequences are going to be, obviously I can't comment on how the tour is going to handle.
The PGA has threatened sanctions and potential bans for its players who take part. The majors are not run by the PGA Tour, but those who join the LIV could also miss out on Ryder Cup selection too. Legends of that competition, Sergio Garcia, Ian Poulter and Lee Westwood, are among the players who've signed up to LIV. American world number 33 Kevin Na has also resigned from the PGA Tour so he can play. He said it was a tough decision. The LIV is led by former world number one and Open champion Greg Norman.
There's been a monopoly in place for 53 years. And it's yes, the opportunity for players is to go play, you have to play the PGA Tour. That's it, pure and simple as that. And they understand some of the bylaws might be a little bit less stringent or less penal than what the tour is saying. You'll be banned for life. You cannot ban players for life. They're independent contractors.
Also confirming his place in the tournament is Phil Mickelson, but he hasn't resigned from the PGA Tour. It's reported that Dustin Johnson will receive around £120 million in appearance fees to play in the series. Has he chosen money over his country?
I chose what's best for me and my family.
So the stakes are high, both for the players and for the future of the sport itself. Dan Glyde, BBC News.
Well, let's speak to our golf correspondent, Ian Carter, who joins us live. Ian was at the Centurion Club today, listening to an awful lot of those press conferences that we've had with the players answering questions. Firstly, before we talk about Dustin Johnson specifically, what was the atmosphere like there today covering it and the players having to front up and asking and answering difficult questions?
It felt tense when the players came in. It was interesting, Sarah, that the moderator or one of the moderators for the press conferences was Ari Fleischer, who in a previous life was the White House press secretary to George W. Bush. And there were tense moments in the news conferences as well, particularly when discussion of sports washing reared its head. But the players were very much on the same page, talking about how excited they are to be part of a project that has a new format, the shotgun starts, the 54 holes, and the fact that this series, they believe, will grow into an equivalent to a golfing Super League.
It's really interesting, Ian, isn't it, listening to a lot of the players, Dustin Johnson, talking, about his reasons behind it. And I suppose significantly, a lot of people will remember back to February when he committed himself to the PGA Tour and he's done this big turnaround. How big of a moment do you think it is, him resigning from the PGA Tour today?
I think it's a very significant move. He followed in the footsteps of Kevin Na, who was the first to resign. We've had reports from America that Sergio Garcia is among others who have decided to quit the PGA Tour, and those players are all involved in this Live Invitational Series. So it's an interesting tactic. I think that it removes for them the possibility of sanctions. Remember, all of the players involved in this, if they are European or PGA Tour players, they are doing so in defiance of their tours. They sought waivers or releases to be able to play, and those releases weren't forthcoming. Therefore, they're liable to sanction, potential bans, and then you get into play as to whether or not those bans could extend to the majors, like next week's US Open, the Open Championship in July. By resigning from the tour, they can't be banned. And therefore, I think they're banking on being able to play in the majors for which they're eligible.
Have we had any reaction from the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour? Because I suppose everybody listening to this might think that this may end up in the courts somewhere down the line, Ian.
Yeah, I think litigation at this stage certainly looks like it's inevitable. And I think that the PGA Tour and the European Tour, which is now known as the DP World Tour, are very much of a mind to keep their counsel at this stage. As we understand it, no one has resigned from the European Tour as it stands at the moment. We know about the resignations from the PGA Tour, but we haven't heard anything official from either of those bodies.
And Ian, finally, am I right in saying that this would be the biggest threat to the current status of men's golf? Like, it is significant, isn't it?
It's hugely significant. You're absolutely right, Sarah, on this. This is an existential threat to the way that golf has been played, certainly since the 1960s and the breakaway from the PGA of America into the PGA Tour, which has reigned supreme at the top of the men's game. This is a big threat. This is people with very deep pockets funded by Saudi Arabia saying, hey, this is a different way to play golf. We could have something akin to a Formula One circuit for leading golfers, for that week in, week out kind of tour version of the game below the four major titles that are up for grabs at the top of the men's game. And there is an almighty power struggle going on at the moment. It'll be fascinating to see how it plays out.
It certainly will be a big week and a busy week ahead for you, Ian Carter. Thanks for joining us. Just one other line of golf news now, because Tiger Woods has announced that he will miss next week's US Open at Brookline. The 15-time major champion posted on social media that he had informed the USGA that he won't be competing because his body needs more time to get stronger for the major championship. For major championship golf, rather, he said he plans to return to play in Ireland before the Open at St Andrews next month. OK, from golf to football now, as Gareth Southgate and his England side are in Munich to take on Germany in the Nations League tonight. Kick-off there is at 7:45. But the build-up to the game saw 7 England fans arrested on Monday, including 3 for making a Nazi salute. About 4,000 England fans are in Munich for the game, as is our reporter Alex Howell.
So this game has been highly anticipated, one, because of the football, and secondly, because this is the first time that England fans have been able to travel in big numbers since before the pandemic. There's around 5,000 expected to travel to Munich, and 3,500 of those officially have tickets in the England end. There were security concerns from the FA because they're on that yellow card, aren't they, from the behaviour from fans because of the Euro 2020 final, and one of the games in this run of them are actually behind closed doors. There were 7 arrests, all of them came last night, and 3 of them unfortunately were for Nazi salutes. But we've been in the town today and also around the stadium, and it has been on the whole very, very friendly. England fans have been singing their songs, but mostly they've been singing about that win in Euro 2020 against Germany, which was on their route to the final. I've also been speaking to Mark Roberts, and he is the most senior policeman in charge of football fans in the UK, and he is very pleased about how he's been working with the German police.
We've had some people who've just been trying to antagonise the police with Nazi salutes, etc. Clearly really sensitive subjects here, so they've been arrested. So some unpleasant stuff, but nothing trying to create violence, and sadly it's all really driven through alcohol, and often we see in football when people don't behave well, it's because they've drunken to excess.
Well, obviously looking ahead to the game now and the action on the pitch a little bit later, Alex. What will Gareth Southgate want to see from his side against Germany, considering they're coming into this off the back of that loss on Saturday to Hungary?
Well, this is an important game because of that loss, but it was going to be important anyway, wasn't it? Germany, one of England's fiercest rivals on the football pitch, and Gareth Southgate has been speaking about how this German team and Brazil are the benchmark on the international stage. The last time England played in Munich was 21 years ago, and that was the scene of England's most famous win here. It was a 5-1, but Gareth Southgate pointed out that at the end of that qualifying campaign, Germany ended up in the World Cup final, and that's exactly what he wants his team to be doing at the end of this year. He wants more goals from this team. Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling are by far and away the top goal scorers in this group, and he's called on the others to step up. There's only 5 games to go, including this one. I think we'll see a strong England side. Raheem Sterling is back and confirmed fit and didn't play in that first fixture, so this game will definitely be one that England want to win.
You have to respect what they've been as a country and what they are as a country in footballing terms, and that mentality is what we're trying to create. We've got to keep getting to the latter stages of competitions.
So that was the England manager there speaking about the test of Hungary and what this Germany side will bring, but it is a very difficult challenge for him. He's got to find a balance. He spoke about after the last game how it's very tricky for him to have a look at new players, but also while trying to get results. And this game, it doesn't lend itself, does it, to him trying things out. Fans aren't going to accept a loss with the way this goes, so it'll be interesting to see what he does tonight, the team he picks, and what the result is at the end of the game.
Certainly will be. Alex Howell in Munich for us. Coverage across the BBC later. It is back down to earth for Wales tomorrow, though. Just 4 days after qualifying for a first World Cup in 64 years, they will take on Netherlands in the Nations League. Several senior players are likely to be rested, but it's a return to work for the rest.
For the players, for the staff, there's high demands on them when they're on camp, and the camp's a long one this time. So we're away together for a month, so they need that little bit of downtime as well. And one thing we pride ourselves in, we've got the balance right, and rightly so. They've got to enjoy moments like that. They've got to embrace it. That's why we stayed on the pitch to celebrate it with our supporters, because you've got to enjoy those moments. And but then the work head's back on again. We spoke about it yesterday, touched on it last night. I've had a meeting with the players this morning. They've gone out and had a good training session, and it's work as usual again now. We're up against a very, very good Dutch team.
Well, Scotland will try to put the heartbreak of their World Cup playoff defeat to Ukraine behind them when they take on Armenia in the Nations League tomorrow. It's a first ever meeting between the two sides, and manager Steve Clarke is keen to move on from the disappointment of missing out on a place at this winter's tournament in Qatar.
Next game. Always in football is the next game. The last game's gone. We can't do anything about it. We've looked at it. We've assessed it, and hopefully we've learned from it. We were a good team going into the game. We didn't perform on the night. It doesn't make us a bad team coming out it. So we have to show that in the next 3 games that we've got over the disappointment, and we'll look forward to a good Nations League campaign.
Emma Raducanu's Wimbledon preparations have suffered a blow as she was forced to retire from her Nottingham Open opener against Victoria Golubic. She had been struggling after a medical timeout just 5 games into the match due to an injury on her left side. And just a few minutes later, she was then unable to continue. It was her first game back on grass since she retired in the 4th round at Wimbledon last summer.
I was feeling really good, to be honest, to go out and play and open up my grass season at home. And the welcome I got straight away was really nice, and I felt really comfortable, to be honest. And first game, absolute freak. I think I pulled something, and I'm not really sure what exactly happened. I kind of just came off court, but like absolute freak injury, I think, and yeah, it's I don't know what I could have done more about it. So that's it.
Well, elsewhere, Andy Murray is through to the second round of the Stuttgart Open, and he did it in style with a straight sets win over qualifier Christopher O'Connell. The three-time Grand Slam champion lost the first 3 games of the match before launching a comeback to beat the Australian 6-4, 6-3. And elsewhere, it has been announced that Glasgow will host the Billie Jean King Cup in November. Great Britain looked like they might miss out on the finals, but after being named as hosts, they will qualify automatically. Now, let's have a quick look at some of the other stories making the sports news today. The International Skating Union will raise the minimum age for competitors in senior events from 15 to 17 to protect skaters. It comes after Russian skater Kamila Valieva, then 15, was provisionally banned for a failed drugs test at the Beijing Olympic Games. Manchester City defender Alex Greenwood has tested positive for COVID and has left England's training camp. She will be monitored with a view to returning for England's game against Belgium next Thursday. And Eilish McColgan has smashed the Scottish record as she won a 10,000-metre race in Hengelo. The 31-year-old beat the national record set by her mum Liz at the same Netherlands venue only months after her daughter's birth. That's lovely, isn't it? Now to motorsport, where on Monday a third rider died while taking part in a race at the Isle of Man TT. Davy Morgan from Northern Ireland crashed on the third and final lap of the Supersport race. The 52-year-old made his debut at the TT in 2002 and had competed in every edition since. Organisers confirmed the news, saying they did so with a heavy heart. Ben Croucher has this report.
At the Isle of Man, its beauty can belie its beast. Each spring at the TT, the Ribbons of Road turn into one of the most iconic and fearsome racetracks in the world, and one of the most deadly. On Monday, Northern Ireland's Davy Morgan became the latest to lose his life.
Davy was an ambassador, Davy was a character. Everyone in the motorcycle road racing scene knew Davy Morgan. It's a massive loss of life, it's a massive loss to his family, and then at the end of that, it's a massive loss to our sport.
Morgan's death was the third in 5 days. Sidecar passenger Olivier Lavarelle died in an accident on Saturday. Welsh rider Mark Purslow died during qualifying on Thursday. His family said they were heartbroken, but he had told them if he did lose his life, this would be the way he'd want to go, and he would be smiling. The risk of death, it seems, is one that racers choose to accept.
I suppose maybe to draw a comparison, like the people who would maybe choose to climb Mount Everest. You know that it's a hell of a task, but you know that it's a thrill, and they also know that if it does happen, that it leaves an awful lot of people behind with an emptiness that will never be replaced. But by the same token, it's something they choose to do.
Since its inception 115 years ago, 263 riders have lost their lives. 1982 remains the only fatality-free year. The course may look different and be safer than previous generations, but with brick walls, lampposts and trees lining the route, can it ever be safe?
Concussion protocols, the medical procedures, the incident response here is fantastic. You can always make motorsport safer, and we should always be striving to make it safer, but it's more difficult to make this race safer, and it's, I think, at the end of the day, impossible to make it safe.
So where does this leave the future? Immediately, 2 days of racing left this year will continue, and organisers have plans in place to improve the safety going forwards. Long term, its appeal will still endure.
The challenge of the course and the fact that it's so long, there's nothing else like it in the world. That's the appeal. So the pinnacle of motorcycle road racing is a TT win. That's a big part of the appeal, and it's how it's always been. I don't see that that's going to change anytime soon.
We know there's a chance for fatality. We accept that. Our families accept that. But unfortunately, it's the love of the sport, and that's what we live for.
It's also what many riders die for the ultimate test in motorcycling continues to carry the ultimate price. Ben Croucher, BBC News.
Well, the Isle of Man TT have told BBC Sport today that the loss of any rider that competes in the Isle of Man TT races is felt deeply across the event. The Isle of Man TT races, they say, work with all necessary services to try and fully understand all of these risks and how to best navigate them. They added the entire organising team will look for every possible way to learn from each incident and near miss in a bid to separate inherent risk from unnecessary risk. OK, finally, triathlete Katrina Matthews set a new record over the weekend, becoming the first woman to finish the full Ironman triathlon in under 8 hours. That was in the sub-8 event in Germany. She finished the 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride and marathon run in just 7 hours, 31 minutes and 54 seconds. And she spoke to Holly Hamilton about the importance her team played in helping her succeed.
It was pretty overwhelming, actually. I think for me that it was less overwhelming from a personal feat and more as a collective, that all day long, the team around me, helping me on the swim, the bike and supporting me on the run. I think it was more the energy and passion and enthusiasm from them that I felt the most reward. I can't understand why people didn't understand why I was saying sorry. I was like, well, obviously, like, you've put in all the hard work. We've done the bikes. We were the fastest swim, the fastest bike, and now I'm going to let everyone down by running a slightly slow marathon. I think I was like maybe 15k to go, and I mouthed to the girls on the side who were supporting from the cycling. They were like, I said, I'm really sorry. And they were like, no, you know, cheering away. And then the next lap, I was like, yes, come on, got this. I'm actually quite good at being quite lazy. So we had a really good group, let's say after party, but sort of race event celebration all afternoon and evening yesterday, with a lot of good food and some nice drinks. And then today has sort of been the same, a long buffet breakfast. I'd like to go for a few swims just to ease my body back into some sort of health, and then recover for at least a week. Especially the marathon takes a lot out of your body physically, and I think the endurance event over 7-8 hours, it takes a lot out of you mentally. So I think to get the most out of myself for the rest of the season, you have to have this composure to say, no, I'm going to really take the time out to embrace what I've done and then move on, rather than just going straight back into it.
Amazing achievement, that, isn't it? Just before we go here on Sports Day, we started with the golf story with the Live Invitational Series. That's the Saudi-backed golf league that is threatening the future of the sport. We've just had a latest update because the USGA, who basically control the US Open, which is the next major on the golf calendar, have just tweeted that any of the players who are playing in London this week in the first of those Live Invitational Series events will be able to play at the US Open, which is happening next week. So plenty more updates on all the day's sports news on the BBC Sport website and app. But for me and the team here on Sports Day, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.